And we are live. Welcome to day 3 of GGP Pride. And thank you, Alistair, for another fantastic round of the Pride is Right. We have some amazing guests, and we're going to talk about Black in gaming. We're going to talk about the experience both inside those corporate walls, in our independent ventures, and in the streets of protest and civil unrest, which are taking place right now today. So I have 3 amazing guests. We'll let them introduce themselves. We'll start with you, Trinidad. Trinidad, are you there? Oh, Trinidad, you're muted. I'll ask to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Trinidad, introduce yourself.
I just hi, and I hear hold on, and I hear myself. Go to someone else. I'm having technical difficulties.
We'll go to CJ.
Hi, I'm CJ Payne. I'm Black and proud. I'm a game designer at Bungie, and before that I was at Turn 10 working on Forza, and then I worked at Camouflage on Republic, some other indie things and small projects. And right now I think the best thing I can do is be a voice for everyone who is going through struggles and civil liberties and searching for justice regardless of community, and that's what I'm here to talk about and try and do for all of us.
Outstanding. And next, I see Trinidad, you're back.
Hi, everybody. My name is Trinidad. I'm the head of diversity and inclusion at Niantic, and I'm just happy to be here because we doing the thing, and I'm just here to be here for all y'all.
Thank you, Trinidad. And Raffy Regulus.
Hey everyone, my name is Raffy. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm president of NYC Gamers.
Thank you all for being here. So you can see we have many facets, not all, but many facets of our game craft brought together. A community leader, a development leader, and a hiring leader, someone who's trying to change lives systemically inside our craft. Why don't we start with you, Trinidad? Maybe paint a picture of how many Black people are even in our industry, and as you sort of survey the landscape, as you're pursuing candidates, like what methods are working, what methods aren't working for discovering people capable and having access to the opportunity to be in this space.
Well, first off, we out there, y'all. We are in these streets, and I always try to put a perspective for people who are like, oh, well, there's no Black people who are qualified to do these jobs. I call bullshit. Like there's people out there, they're just not being promoted into senior level roles. They're stuck at management level. There's entry level. Have any of y'all been to NSBE? 10,000 Black students who are going for engineering. And I think that the way that we at Niantic are trying to tap into that network is working with GGP, working with Black in Gaming, working with game devs of color, working with I Need Diverse Games, working with people who are doing the work in the community to raise awareness around access, like creating access, and educating leaders who are so used to seeing themselves in these positions and educating them with the knowledge of how important it is to have a balanced workforce. And yeah.
No, it's great. I want to talk to CJ for a second. So CJ, you are a game designer at Bungie, right? This is a very aspirational role. But maybe talk about your process. How did you find your way into the industry? Or maybe before that, where are you from, CJ?
I'm from Nova, aka Northern Virginia.
Wait, stop. Wait, go slower. Where are you from in Nova?
Herndon.
Okay, wait a second. We're gonna have a side quest. I grew up on, CJ, swear to God, I grew up on Fox Mill Road.
I know it. We've talked. You went to South Lakes, right?
Yeah. So
yeah, we've
tell the people your path. Tell me your educational path and also your game path to get into this industry.
Oh man, it's a long and arduous one a little bit, but
then people need to know this is the time.
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to work on games. I think, goodness, how old was I? Maybe 8, right? Like I played The Legend of Dragoon, old Sony RPG on PlayStation. I say old, that's not that old, but whatever. And what happened was I ended up going through middle school, high school, all of that, trying to pick up a few things here and there, some programming, writing, figuring it out, because I really wanted to go into like the writing path and storytelling. And I found out very quickly that is an almost impossible thing to enter into games doing, at least when I was trying to. So I picked up design because I was also starting to do design. So right when I graduated high school, 2010, I picked up some books, right? I picked up Jesse Schell's Art of Game Design. I picked up Brenda Romero and Ian's book on like challenges for game designers. And that's how I taught myself how to prototype. I was just teaching myself game design through the literature that we have handed down. And I was also going through like Unreal and trying to work through some of that. And I was working on 3 associate's degrees, computer science, fine arts, liberal arts, doing that, getting on like indie game teams online, finding, wherever I could. So I started writing for one group, did that for a couple months. Progress wasn't being made. I jumped off to another group, worked on a project for a year and a half doing systems design and some production. And that was that was my first canceled project, right? After a year and a half, we ran out of money. But I had finished up my associate's degrees. I was looking at DigiPen, got into DigiPen, started making games there as much as I could, and just starting to grow my network and build out from there. Went to, I think 2015 is when I started talking with Camouflage with Ryan Payton there. He's a really nice guy. He helped me out, gave me, like my first position. And I interviewed for like a design position there, didn't get it because they couldn't facilitate adding a designer at the time, but we kept in contact. A few months later, they needed help with production. I was there, did that for a couple months with the last 2 episodes of Republic, went back to school, did more of that for a year and a half, and then like struggled after that. Couldn't find a position, I think, for many moons, right? I think it was at least 7 months I couldn't find something despite having experience. And then was able to get a position at Turn 10 eventually. And that led into me doing a bunch of work there that's expected to do, but also a bunch of work I was not expected to do. And quickly they realized like, okay, I can actually work on multiple teams at once because that's something I've just been doing those years. And all the while, I always have something burning in the background. So that eventually led me to Bungie. And it was a 3.5 year path getting to Bungie, just interviewing on and off with them. So
that is fantastic. That's some history, y'all. So
yeah,
Raffy, I want to ask you a different question. Often I hear that many Black people play games. Very high percentage of Black people play games. However, I found in the leadership of groups of gamers, I rarely see Black people. I see you. I see JC with his gay pod group. And then there's a big fall off. My question to you is this. One, what has your own journey been like to rise to be a leader who is Black of a gaming group, an inclusive one? And 2, what have been some of the unique challenges of being inclusive of Black people in a group? Because once again, when I navigate these groups, I navigate the world, there seems to be a fall off between percentage of people who play and community involvement in these bigger groups, which are most likely to get the most resources and free games, like the free games we're giving away right now all weekend in Discord.
So, wow, thank you for that. Okay, so where do I even begin? All right, so I guess it's important to acknowledge that first and foremost, I am Black and Puerto Rican. And that within itself was a journey for me because I am the darkest, I guess like the most melanated of my generation in my family, right? So having to combat that spoke volumes for my own personal growth and journey. On top of that, being non-binary, being trans, being a part of the gay and queer community, right? Like a lot of these multifaceted parts of my identity, I found affirmation in gaming. I found my escape and my like what I was looking for that I felt was missing from my reality in gaming. My favorite game of all time is always going to be Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time because like I was one of those kids that was like the game is called Zelda, but like what gender are they? And Link looks amazing and that's my truth, right? Like and to this day I still stand, right? So that being said, when I was introduced to GamerX, when they had GamerX East here in New York City, I interviewed to be the volunteer coordinator for GamerX East. Both years that it was here, and I met a lot of amazing people. And along the way, I met Shane Cherry, who was doing a lot of events at NYC, like nightclubs, and they were one of the admins for the Facebook group, formerly called like NYC Gamers. And we would go table at PAX East and at other gaming conventions. And eventually, we realized there's something missing here. There's something lacking, and I feel like everything happens for a reason. The universe conspires. And eventually, a group of us decided, we made a commitment that we were going to make NYC Gamers a nonprofit organization. And there was a lot of trial and error and tribulation. And eventually, we did it. You know, we founded our board. As of January of this year, we're legally a nonprofit. We're still fundraising for that 501c3, not like tax exempt status. So go to our website to support gamers.nyc. But I guess all of that is to say, we saw that there was something lacking and we responded to that, and we're going to continue responding to that. But honestly, we wouldn't even feel as involved or as included and welcomed in the gaming spaces were it not for amazing folks like you, Gordon, right? Jay Justice, Tanya, from I Need Diverse Games. Like, you're talking about amazing Black and Brown folks, a part of the queer community who were already pioneering what it felt like to be in the diversity lounges at PAX and to be Black and queer, right? So, like, honestly, if it wasn't for y'all paving the way, I wouldn't be where I am. And I'm hoping to continue that and uplift our community.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very nice. Speaking of paving a way, let's talk about the streets. Okay? Because I was going to ask the question, it's a classic question of when did you find out you were Black? But now it's painted on the street. So I want to speak to your experiences. I'm gonna bring it back to CJ. CJ, I have seen pictures, I've seen photos, I've seen blog posts, but I need you to share with people your journey, right? With all that you have at risk, all that you've put. You're a designer at Bungie. You've got things going on, and you are also in the street. Can you maybe talk about your Black experience in the street of Seattle now?
Yeah. I mean, I really personally, the reason I'm out is I don't feel like I have a choice in the matter. There's no say. It's beholden upon me as a Black man with this much power who's worked to get here to do something with it, right? Like, my voice is no longer at a point where it can be hushed or you can silence me. So I'm going to mouth off because we're all mouthing off, right? And to be just like frank about the matter, it's as simple as everything I put in the post where it says, you know, average Black household in Seattle earns 40 to 44K. The average white household in Seattle earns about 100K. So if you're Black and you want to actually do something, you want to have an impact on the civil rights of anyone at 13% of the population earning under half of what someone else may earn, especially during this time of COVID, like, that takes a lot. That just takes a lot out of you, out of your family, to go out there to protest, remove yourself from like the situation of comfort you might have or little reprieve, and do this on weekdays, on weekends. I have days I can take, and I am working at a company where they actually respect the fact that I'm doing all of this. And to what degree, I don't know, but I know enough that they're like, yeah, we understand, right? Like, this is important, and I'm trying to mobilize and activate everyone who might otherwise turn their eye. So literally the first Saturday I went out when the first riots were starting, I was starting up a stream on Twitch so I could just hang out with my friend and we could chat, you know, socially distant. And I look out my window and I see smoke. I'm like, yo, Scott, do you see smoke out the window from your place? And he looks out, he's like, yeah. He checks it out real quick. He's like, oh, there's riots going on. I'm like, I have to go now. And literally just jumped out, grabbed my camera. So I'm out here because I need to document what's going on, and I can show it to people who know me. And that when you hit the second degree, people really start to understand an issue, right? I feel like it's the same for pretty much every minority. We just experience it firsthand and we pass it on, and it becomes a little closer.
And for everyone in the chat, what is your URL? What is the site they can go to continue to follow?
That is paynecj.com. Let me put this in here.
There
And
it
you
is.
can,
Thank you. And
yeah.
Eric will put that in the chat for us. That's great. Thank you, Eric. Raffy, similar question, right? I've been to New York. You're working already helping people all day, every day in your day work, right? You take on a burden all day, every day of some very difficult challenges. How did you navigate from there into the streets, and what has that experience been?
Um, I am gonna be real, like, I'm gonna accept some humility in that and be transparent, right? Like some vulnerability. It's still something that I'm juggling every day, right? Like I read books like Trauma Stewardship, and I listen to a lot of YouTube videos and podcasts about compassion fatigue. Um, because it's difficult, right? Like I'm doing so my day job, I work at a nonprofit that works with survivors of violence throughout the LGBTQ community. So I'm already doing work where I'm being paid and my identity is on the front line, right? And that's both a privilege and a burden, right? Um, then off the clock, my identities are still vulnerable, right? Like they're still visible and they're resilient, and I'm on the front lines. Pulse happens, I'm at a protest. Black Lives Matter, I'm at a protest. Earthquakes in Puerto Rico, I'm at a protest, you know? So it's hard to be able to find that self-care and sustainability. But honestly, what's been keeping me driving so far has been NYC gamers. It's been the gaming community. It's been communicating with amazing folks like y'all who are also like sharing with me how are you? How are you doing? How are you holding up, right? And I think that journey, that skill sharing is super important.
Yeah, I want to bring Trinidad because and talk about, you brought up compassion fatigue. So as you all know, being Black isn't seasonal. Being queer, not seasonal. Yet here we are at the last day of Pride.
But we are well seasoned.
Yes, yes. So fair, fair. And Juneteenth is in our rearview mirror. Can you talk about some of your experiences and challenges, and maybe even help people in the audience understand how to keep this energy and momentum going forward, right? When the Instagram filter has gone down. And I'll start with you, Trinidad, because you have to work year round, right? And avoid seasonality for the people that you serve.
That one's a hard one for me because I see that right now there are a lot of people who are charged with the energy to continue protesting and go out. And as things start to open up, depending on where you live in the world, right? As things start to open up, people's focuses change. But one thing that I continually say is that this is not a race, it's a marathon. Like we have to continue to apply the pressure. And that's in whatever way that you can. So one thing, some people are protesting. Some people are helping their companies by writing letters that are going to be facing the whole world. Some people are in companies gathering their Black colleagues and saying, we need to come together to create an atmosphere of change. Some people are leaving their companies. Like every different way that you can embody and say like, hey, this is my time to show up for my generation. I believe that every generation has an opportunity to step up to the plate like we are right now. And although I may say I'm quote unquote tired, or, I've been doing this for my whole life, blah, 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 yak, 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 I have to acknowledge that so did Rosa Parks. She was probably tired. So was MLK. He was probably tired. Malcolm X, and honestly, that's my place right now where I'm like, how can I use my social capital, like who I am as a person, what I embody, what I represent, to help my people, period. Like, so this is my chance to stand up and not sit in the back of the bus, and go to my leaders and risk everything, really. Like, I mean, there's layers to this shit. And I think that's the thing that is the most nuanced thing, is when you're in corporate America or when you're at these game studios or wherever you're at, like you have to recognize where you are in the system and how your actions could affect the whole company. So you and I hate to like bring this up, but like, the Me Too movement, someone had to make that first step and say something, and we're saying it, we're seeing it on our TVs, we're seeing it on social media, we're seeing it everywhere. Now, what's our first step as individuals? How are we going to join the collective? How are we going to empower each other? And it's not going to be by pointing fingers. Oh, you didn't protest the right way. It's not going to be, it's by coming together and saying, hey, you work in Capitol Hill. What kind of social capital do you have? Like telling people to utilize their gifts, their superpowers, their magic for this movement.
For sure. So there's a milestone coming up, and I'll put this to TJ, and we'll just bring it back around. The 4th of July. Okay. Now, from one point of view, people are gonna want to, can we just barbecue, right, and set up some fireworks, right? Those of you who live in urban areas know that 4th of July has already begun, and you weren't invited, yet it's still occurring. More fireworks than I've experienced in my lifetime have suddenly appeared, right, in my city, in my town, yet I never see anybody who has a fireworks party or nothing, and no sparklers. All the things I love. How are you going to navigate as people, perhaps even your supporters, go, hey, I went to the protest. It's 4th of July. Can't we just move on and celebrate all things? Because this is only about 2 weeks away, right? How are you thinking about this personally, right? When it worked, when they're like, hey, CJ, it was great, but we got some DLC that needs to come down the pike in space, right? Raffy, when they're like, oh, this is great, but there's that new Animal Crossing skins, we gotta get with it, right? Trinidad, I can tell you, big things are happening, right? Where the focus of your organizations may want to move forward and not be as present in what's going on today. And I'll start with you, CJ.
For me, I'm just super honest about it with everyone, right? Like that entire week where things started popping off here, Cap Hill, Seattle, I didn't get a ton of work done, and that's well known, right? I've told everyone that, and I told them it feels really trivial. Like work has never felt more trivial in my entire life than coming in after getting like tear gas 3 days in a row, right? Like how much can I really care about trying to do something when I'm getting tear gassed and maced on a daily basis for just existing?
And slow down. Are you in the chat? Are you in around the chop or the chat? What the Chaz?
I am. You can call it the chop, you can call it the Chaz. I'm 4 blocks from it.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, what I would do is I'd work, right? I get off at 7, and then some of my coworkers, amazing, lovely people. I seriously, I love these people.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them would come out with me and experience and be part of it and have the understanding, and then like talk with me. And then it's educational, but at the same time, it's very empathetic and compassionate in a way to participate and put yourself as best as one can in my shoes. So that's like 7, do that, come home at 2 in the morning, and then like go to sleep at 4 and wake up. So like work feels kind of trivial. I'll still do it, right? Because I need to. And if every Black person knows who climbs up a ladder, you cannot fall. We do not have that luxury. There is no safety net. And looking at the future and forward, the way I make my presence and my power known and voiced is saying that we're not forgetting about this and it's still happening. Like I want to see more coming down the pipeline. I've already talked to studio leadership. I've tried talking with several other studios as well and trying to get them on board to change things. Like I want to see terms and service agreements for mini games change to be a more direct statement along the lines of, I, as a player of fill in the game, promise to uphold the values of all people, regardless of gender, sexual orientation, color, creed. And this is a bare minimum line to say, hey, we still uphold your civil justices and your ability to be a human being and be your true authentic self. And anyone who wishes harm against that should in some form have a punishment against them.
Super interesting, because I'll say by historical, that's like an Icarus moment. You're getting close to the money. That's a very interesting thing. When you say
it should hit the money.
I'm just feeling the history here.
Yeah.
Raffy, I want to ask the same thing, and we'll bring it back to you, Trinidad. I swear. Raffy, talk to me. You have a group, an inclusive group, some of whom are directly impacted by the world, Some may be more adjacent, maybe like I'm a supporter. How do you navigate that?
I would start by, well, first and foremost, NYC Gamers reached out to other affiliated and partner gamer organizations, right? We reached out to folks and said, hey, how are we going to respond, right? Like, what are we doing? Like, I want to know what is it that other organizations are doing, because we're better than a lot of these corporations that are giving out their like templates of Black Lives Matter responses that feels very synonymous to the filter that you mentioned earlier, right? So there was intention in that, and it made me so happy that my colleagues, my team, were like, well, Raffy, whatever you want to do, we're here for it. Let's do it, you know? And it didn't come from a place of like emotional labor. It came from a place of like uplifting my truth and my narrative and making sure that our community is heard. So we did that, you know, we released our public statement. We made sure that we provided a safer space within our social media channels, like our Facebook group, to make sure that folks had a place to disconnect, but still know that they're connected if they're seeking support. And we made sure that we were more intentional about what is it that we were sharing and liking on our social media channels. I think it's important to recognize that we're not here to minimize or erase the fact that we are living through this and this is happening, and it's impossible to move forward. It's impossible to go back to norm because the normal was never normal, right? But we're not always going to get it right when it comes to figuring out how are we going to move forward. The only, like, in my opinion, the best way to do it is to make sure that you're not walking it alone.
Got it. That's awesome. And you can see the NYC Gamers link. It's actually below the screen if you're on your PC. But tell everybody once again, what is your link if you want to engage with you and your group?
If you want to connect with us on social media, and if you want to hear more about our organization, go to gamers.nyc. So that's gamers with a Y, .nyc, and the Y in gamer means you belong.
Fantastic. Back to you, Trinidad. Oh, Trinidad's writing it down, taking those notes.
I was taking notes. I will say that we need, and I'm, you know, the question was asked a little bit ago, but what I remember of it, I do believe we need to have policy changes, internal systemic blockers that have been placed before we were even born are still remnant in our companies, our policies, how we navigate, how we even develop games. I think we need to have more of an inclusive game design. Someone who I honor is Celia Holden. Like, this is her wheelhouse, and she loves looking at UX and looking at how people create games and really trying to create an inclusive design. And there's also others in the industry who've done talks on how to do avatar design that's more inclusive, to how to empower our players with more tools in the community so that they can call out when there's a lot of negative energy. But one thing that I personally think is important is that leadership is committed and that they're willing to make changes when they see the problem. And I can only speak on behalf of Niantic. And we did put a statement out for Black Lives Matter in our commitment. We're committing our Pokemon Go sales for our summer Pokemon Go Fest to half of it to rebuilding the cities and the other half for Black AR and game creators. All y'all out there, the information will come out after Go Fest, but that's a minimum of 5 million, you know, and I'm like, 5 million. All I was asking for was a donation to the Martha P. Johnson Fund. And I was like, yo, I didn't ask for enough. And, you know, they came to me, you know, and they were like, hey, we could do this. And so I realized that sometimes in our communities, we don't ask for enough. We just want, like, we're even asking, can we matter? Do you understand how mind fucking boggling that is? Like, you know, I don't even want to go down that slippery slope. But like, we have equal rights here, and we're just asking to fucking matter. Like, I
will post to you, Trinidad. Here's what's interesting to me, I take from this, is that what you were learning was that there's someone in the room who speaks for you when you're not there. There's someone in the room, and there's an opportunity to connect now. There's someone in the room who said, when someone said 1, they said, how about 5? They might have said 10 and negotiated down to 5. And part of you're right, the real power, right, is when we change the discussion to the point where you're like, I was in a room, you won't believe what happened. Someone tried to say 500,000. So I took my marker and I put a 0 next to it and said, let's continue the discussion, right? And that's the growth that we're all trying to work towards.
And the thing is I'm not the one. There's a group of us who were like, hey, we're going to go into this meeting, we're going to ask for some things. Like, that's one thing that I encourage people to do is be a voice, and collectively you can get more capital than by yourself. And so coming together is huge, with allies. And I was just shocked, and I was like, okay, I didn't know I could play with that much money, and I was just honored to say that, like, the leadership of my company rose to the occasion, like, and to be able to help and be a part of that with the collective. And I
And now
really do believe.
Also, you face the challenge of the nouveau riche. The real challenge is like, what are you going to do? Will you build wealth or riches, right? So you've got something, the real measure will be in time, right?
Exactly.
Like, capital has come and gone, right? Wealth is hard to build because it's a temperament, an expectation that you're going to be around for a minute to do it. Speaking of, could you talk a little bit about the meeting yesterday? Talk about Black in Gaming. I saw the screen on Zoom, but tell people about what you experienced just yesterday.
Sorry, that was Tyson. He's a boxer.
Hey,
Likes
we all
to
got
fight.
pains. We all have these things. Talk to us.
So Black in Gaming is a Facebook group. It is a collective. It is a body of people who, a couple of years ago, started during GDC the Black in Gaming Awards. And that's where they honor people who've been here, done that, paved the way for all of us to be here. Gordon was a recipient of, what was it, a Lifetime Achievement Award?
There, I get the Jerry Lawson Award. Jerry Lawson, if you don't know who Jerry Lawson is, that's what's up.
Humble brag. And so at this point, we're building the infrastructure of what that looks like. And so for Juneteenth weekend, we really wanted just to get people together to network. And thanks to Guy at PAX Yug, he created a platform for us to get people together and do breakout rooms and network and all of that, and a bag of chips. And it was just fucking phenomenal. It was there was so much, and like, I don't think everybody realized, but there were some heavy hitters in the room, like legit. You have Sony, PlayStation, EA, Activision, you have Warner Brothers, like, just in the chat, just trying to get to know each other. And like, I mean, obviously when we were in the chat, we were like, yeah, we should start a Black game studio, like the dreams of having our own Wakanda, and just different things of that nature. So it was definitely refreshing. It's not going to be the last time. It's going to be something that's consistent so we can build up the community. And we're also going to do the Game Awards show, TBD.
I will tell you, just for history's sake, because I guess I'm historical now, you would not be the first. The question, much like what you need to do with the $5 million, is how do you sustain a Black-owned game studio? How do you have more than one so that you don't have to make just one game? You could have multiple games on multiple platforms and multiple distribution methods available to you. That is the real question. Even with Black in Gaming Awards, because we'll talk about it for a second. You might not know this, but there are two. They both happen every year to lift people up. And we have a communication opportunity, even amongst Black people, right? To be effective, right? In lifting up our own people and in recognizing our own history.
Amen.
I want to go back to CJ. CJ, you have lived life as an independent developer and working for some of the largest companies in the land. Maybe talk about the support and the resources that would help you. You're here right now. We don't have to wait. I heard you did system design, you did this, you might have been doing productions of audio. You're right here, right? What are the resources that could lift you up?
Ooh, lift me up to do what, Gordon?
Whatever you dream of. You can iterate because you're a designer. Who am I to say?
That's always a rough one, right? Like, my dreams, my goals, my aspirations, like, on a personal level, I'm trying to get to a point where I can creatively lead, right? I want to be able to put out projects with a group of individuals that I think are like-minded and across a spectrum of like identities and experiences, so we can put out perspective that just doesn't exist or isn't encapsulated within games very well, at least right now. So in order to do that, resources I'm looking at would be experience in ways that I lack, connections, and forming bonds with people who have the perspectives I don't and skill sets I don't, and being able to make projects in that way. So that's something I'm trying to work on right now. But in terms of what other people can give me, that's just connections, I think.
So CJ, you won't believe this. Trinidad, who's right next to you on screen, actually has a vast directory. I just saw it today. There is actually I was today years old too. It's got hundreds of people who want to help with running a company, mentorship, finding new people, software skills, all of these things. People who have opted in, but we navigate the challenge of discovery, right? How do you take the information that's available with Trinidad and make it accessible to CJ? Heck, how do you make it available to Raffy? Raffy might want to break in, be like, you know what? I give a lot to games. Why is this not a revenue stream for me? Like when you launch your nonprofit, right? Who can I call on iteratively, right? With my new programs to serve the audience. There's a list. It exists. Trinidad is going to share it with us in time, and then we're going to propagate it to the world, because this is what wealth looks like, right? There's people who are wealthy and people won the lottery, is they already got accountants. They've already got it. They've already got lawyers because they expected to be wealthy and they expected to maintain it. In fact, their parents maintained it, right? They're more worried about, how do we adjust tax laws? How can we talk about, how can we adjust tax laws so that we can be more wealthy? It doesn't come up because you just got the money. Just like, right? Trinidad just got the money. Raffy, you're just about to be available to get the money.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't say we got the money, because
Yeah, I'm not. Oh, I'm not. But I expect you to be around, right? What we're talking about today is you being around, right? I can see us having this conversation. We might be at GGP 2030, and then we can just talk about it, right? You can tell me about your 7-8 years of history and all of it. I can't wait to hear about it. CJ, with CJ Studios, right? Heck, we call it CG, Rise of Bungie, CG, right? CG Studios. Right? Born out of the top studios. Why not? Right? And these are discussions that we begin today. And I think CJ spoke something very important, which is the difference between psychographic and demographic, right? We were on with our producer, we were talking about, are you Black, right? Black to me is an experience, and it's an orientation towards those experiences, right? Being Black is what CJ recognized that he needed to go and get in the streets. It was not the color of his skin, right? He got in the streets. And in fact, when your coworkers showed up with you, they were Black because they were like, oh, let me go ahead and lean into this experience with my time and let me stay for a minute, right? Even though I could go at any time, I could just go be like, something's on Netflix. I'm going to be here with you in the same way that you need to reside in your Blackness all day, every day, right? Trinidad, serving Blackness to me, bringing all those people together, talking to Guy and Young so they can all see each other on the screen, right, for the first time, and having that experience for yourself. Raffy, same with you every day. You're making it work from a car. You aren't in an office of steel and glass. You're in some steel and glass of a car, but you are still here making it work. That is a Black experience, right? That is, as you would say, fully melanated, right? To be here and make it work. So, very important question. Everybody needs to stay in contact with you. Someone out there in this crowd is Black and needs to be able to find you. What is the best way to find you, Trinidad?
You can find me on Twitter, Discord, Instagram at ThisIsTrini. And I also can give y'all my email. Anything. If you find me on any of those platforms, you can just DM me and I can give you more information on how to contact me.
Perfect. Raffy, same question.
You can reach me through any of the NYC Gamers social media platforms. It's all listed on our website. You can also join our mailing list. You can also reach out to me directly through Twitter. It's the easiest way to reach me. Just send me a DM at Raffy Regulus.
Gotcha. And CJ, I see your links in our chat, but tell the people they might be on mobile. They might need to hear it, CJ. They need to hear those words.
Yeah, so if you want to find me on Twitter, it's at that CJ Payne. And then if you want to find me on LinkedIn, it's Payne CJ. Yeah.
That is amazing. And you can find us here, obviously, on our new Twitch affiliate channel, thanks to the powerful content of y'all. You can also find us in our Discord, which we'll put in the chat. You can find us on Twitter as well, Instagram, thanks to our social media. As importantly, you can support our scholars. So we have our next generation of people who we are trying to lift up. And we have a partnership with Penny Arcade, where we have pins that they're selling, and we have a direct way to contribute. If you're like, I want to directly help our next generation in a meaningful way, in partnership with ESA Foundation, we are lifting them up. We are trying to help them be the best they can be, and also just navigate at a high trajectory during this time of pandemic, social unrest, and their own default experiences. Thank you. And so I just want to thank all of you for making time today. This is the beginning of a discussion. Because we're a Twitch affiliate, we can talk whatever we want now. We can just get on there. We've got that check mark coming soon. So thank you for being a part of our first GGP Pride Black in Gaming discussion. But yes, everyone, Pride is year round. So we're going to talk about this year round. And we'll be available to listen to you as well.